Meseches Kesubos Daf is about a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel whether a woman whose husband traveled away has a right to demand mizonos from his estate. The Gemara will call it the machlokes, narrow down what exactly the machlokes' case is. Then the Gemara will bring 5 or 6 proofs, the beginning of which will be from our Mishnah, which is why this is here. So let's begin. The Gemara says, "Is machlokes between Rav and Shmuel about a woman, a married woman whose husband traveled away to Medinas Hayam. He's not here. She needs food. She's demanding food from his estate, the managers of his estate. The question is, will the Beis Din give her food from his property? We may have to sell his property in order to pay for food for her. What do we do?" So the Gemara says that Rav says we sell his property, we set an amount from Zonas for her, and we feed her the entire time that he's away. Shmuel says we do not. Now the Gemara wants to narrow down the case. The Gemara says the first 3 months that he's left, we definitely don't give her food because the assumption is that if the guy went away, he left over food for her. However, if he's gone for more than 3 months, then we can't assume that any longer necessarily, at least not according to Rav, and therefore we have to feed her. Now, if he died in Medinas Hayam, we heard that he died, then we will give her food. Even Shmuel will agree that we will feed her. The only case of this machlokes is if it's more than 3 months and we did not hear that he died. What's a machlokes about? Rav says she needs to eat. He is obligated to support her as his wife. He is obligated to support her. She has a right to get food. Shmuel says there's 2 reasons not to feed her. Number 1, we have to be concerned maybe he left over a supply of funds for her to support it from that. And second of all, maybe he doesn't have a chiv to support her. We know that a husband and a wife don't always have to exchange support. It could be that the husband and wife agreed that she would support herself. Generally, the exchange is that the husband gives her food, gives her support, and whatever work she does goes to him. That's a deal that they have between them and Chazal set up. If they want, they can opt out. It's machlokes amarim who has the right to force an opt-out. But it's possible that an opt-out happened over here, and therefore the husband left, and there is no need to support her because they have an opt-out in place. We don't know that. She's denying it. Now, that's why Shmuel says, as long as the husband's alive and he's away, don't give her any money from his estate to pay for her food because of these 2 concerns. Now, if he died, though, neither of these concerns apply. First of all, she no longer has to give him her mazonos, so therefore there's no longer any opt-out. She gets free mizonos from him without any opt-out option. The only opt-out option is if the children, the Yorshim, say that they want to opt out, and they can't do it against her will. She has to agree, and here she's saying she didn't agree. As far as that, she may have left food, money behind, so that's not a problem, because at some point she's going to collect her ksuba, and when she collects her ksuba, we know that according to all opinions, we had a machlokes whether she has to swear to get mizonos that she doesn't have any money left behind. But we know, according to all opinions, she has a right to collect her ksuba, and then she'll just swear then that she doesn't have any money that he left over for her. There is no money hidden away. So at some point, she's going to have to swear that there's no money hidden away, and therefore we don't have to worry about her taking that money. But that's only once he died. Otherwise, there's a potential problem that she may die first, and it's never going to happen. That she'll end up having to take that shua. So this is the machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Now the Gemara wants to bring a number of proofs about this question. So the Gemara first brings a proof from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says clearly somebody who goes to Medinas Hayam, he leaves his wife behind, and she wants mizonos. So the machlokes if she has to swear or not. Hanan said she doesn't have to swear until she collects her ksuba. She doesn't have to swear to take mizonos because, like we said, she's going to end up swearing eventually anyway that she doesn't have any money hidden away. But the Bnei Kohanim Gedolim disagree and say that she has to swear now in order to collect. So the Gemara says the only machlokes is whether or not she has to swear, but everybody agrees that she can collect. So how exactly is Shmuel going to explain this? As Shmuel says that she cannot collect while her husband is in Medinas Hayam. So the Gemara says that's no problem. Shmuel says this is talking about when we heard that he died, and that's why she has a right to collect. Now, the Gemara has a second proof from a very similar discussion. This one's a brisa, and brisa has an extra line here. It says, and we'll have the same answer, but it's an extra line. So the brisa says that somebody who went to Medinas Hayam left his wife behind. She claims she wants to be fed. So the Bnei Kohanim Hagedolim say she has to swear. Hanan say she doesn't have to swear. If he comes and he says, I gave her food, I left her food, then he's believed that he gave that food. So again, why there seems to be no issue here. Everybody agrees that he has to feed her, or we have to feed her from his estate. How Shmuel going to explain it? Shmuel says that it's talking about where we know that he died. The Gemara says if he died, then how do you explain the next line where it says that he comes and he says that I gave her food? Then we believe him. If he can't come and say that if he is dead. So Shmuel says that's no problem. we thought he was dead, and then it turns out that he wasn't dead, and he came. And that's where we're going to believe him further. All right, now Gemara's third proof is from a similar brayso. So this one says that somebody who goes from Medinas Yam leaves his wife behind. She claims support. If he comes and he says that they should swap Maisi Yadayim, her work, and his Mizonos, meaning they should each take their own, then they have a right to do that. If the Beis Din went and gave her food, so whatever food she has, she keeps. She holds on to that for now. So again, we see that we do give her Mizonos. Here it says clearly that there is an obligation to feed her as long as he's away. So again, the Gemara answers is talking about where we know that he died, and if he came, of course, we'll say the same answer, that he came after we had heard that, and I guess he was not dead. Gemara's fourth proof, similar brayso, says somebody went to Medinas Yam and his wife wants support. The Beis Din will go to his property, sell the property, and feed her. Says clearly the Beis Din will go take his property and feed her. But we are not going to feed his children, only him and not the kids. And also, we're not going to do davar achar. We're not going to do something else. The Gemara is going to explain what that is. So here again, we have the same problem. Why do we support him? Why do we support her? Obviously, how we give support to her. How is Shmuel going to explain that? And we can't say that he died, because then why don't we support his children? So Mari gives a number of answers here. The first answer is of Sheshes. He says that we're talking about where he set up somebody else to feed his wife. There was a third party that he gave money to feed her. The fact that he set it up means that there was no deal made between them that he doesn't have to feed her. There was no money that he put aside for her to collect, for her to feed herself off, and there was no opt-out on her keeping her own Maaseh Yadayim and not receiving food. And then what happened was that third party quit. He doesn't want to do it anymore. So now the Beis Din clearly has to feed her, and everybody's going to agree to that. There's not going to be any issue. Shmuel won't argue, because clearly there's nothing to be concerned that you may have another way of supporting yourself. So Gemara says if that's true, so then how come his children don't get support? Obviously he needs to support them as well. So the Gemara says because he set aside a third party to support his wife, and he did not set aside a third party to support his children. And therefore the children have, we are concerned that he did put aside money for them to eat from. Someone says, why would the brayso set it up like that? That the wife is, that we are concerned that the wife had a third party and the kids don't have a third party, and we didn't just say straight up if there was a third party, then those people get support. If there's no third party, then they don't get support. Why are we assuming that the wife is the one that's going to have a third party and the kids are not going to have a third party? How does that assumption make sense? So the Gemara therefore rejects this answer. And the Gemara says again, we're talking about that he died. The question, of course, is though, if he died, why don't you feed the kids? So the Gemara answers because that there was only a single witness that says that he died. And the halacha is that the wife is allowed to trust the single witness. She's allowed to go get remarried based on that. Since she's allowed to get remarried based on that, she has that psak as a solid psak, and therefore she collects mizonos. However, the children cannot take his property away based on that psak. That single eid echad was not trusted as far as property, and therefore they do not, as far as they're concerned, it's not established that he died, and therefore they don't get mizonos from his estate. Now they want to just ask, what is the davar acher? What's the something else that we said that we will not sell his estate to support? So Rav Chizda says it's perfume for his wife, and Rav Yosef says that's to fulfill his charitable obligations to the community. Now perfume is something we assume he's more likely to want, and therefore, according to the opinion that says we're not going to give the perfume, certainly tzedakah we're not going to give, and according to what it says we're not going to give tzedakah. However, it could be that perfume we are going to give. And now we go to our next proof, again in the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel, whether or not a man has to support his wife, or we have to sell his property to support his wife if he's gone away out of town. And this is talking about a yavama, that is, her husband had died and she's waiting to do yibum to her husband's brother. So the first 3 months she can't do yibum, because she has to wait a 3-month waiting period, so that is still on the responsibility of the estate of the dead husband, and therefore that is the estate that has to feed her. From after 3 months, she does not get support from her dead husband's estate any longer because she's supposed to do yibum, and she doesn't get support from the yavam either because the yavam hasn't married her yet, and therefore he's not her responsibility. So she's kind of in between. Now, once they bring the yavam to court and they say, "All right, you're going to do yibum or you're going to do chalitza? What are you going to do?" Then it's the yavam's achrayis. And if he goes and he runs away, then she gets support from the Yavam's estate. So you see again that if he runs away, if he's not there, he goes to Medina Siyam. Here it's not a husband, here it's just a Yavam, but the Beis Din will give him support from the Yavam's estate. So what's Shmuel going to do to that? So Shmuel answers very simple. Here, my two concerns are not concerns. He definitely didn't leave over money for her. He's not married to her, and he didn't even want to get involved with her, and he ran away. So he certainly didn't put money aside for her. As far as Ma'aseh Yadayim, she's not married to him. She doesn't owe him her Ma'aseh Yadayim yet, so they couldn't make a deal. You keep your Ma'aseh Yadayim, and I'll keep my support. So therefore, that's there. I would agree. No kasha me at all. All right, the Gemara goes to its sixth proof. And this is talking about a woman that she and her husband both together went to Medina Siyam, and then she came back and she says, "My husband had died, so now she has a choice. She can collect her mizonos, or she can collect her ksuba, just like any woman whose husband had died. If, however, she comes and she says that my husband divorced me, so now she has no right to mizonos anymore. A divorced woman doesn't get mizonos. She can, however, collect her ksuba. So she's allowed to collect food up until the value of her ksuba. Now, to actually get her ksuba, that she can't do, because she's not trusted to say that her husband divorced her. We're not going to let her remarry. And therefore, we don't want to give her ksuba, lest it appear that she is allowed to remarry. She's believed to say that he died. She's not believed to say that he divorced her. That you need proof for. So, again, the kasha over here is that the husband is away in Medina Siyam, and he's being obligated to support her. So, the Gemara here again says, we're talking about where we heard that he died. So the Gemara says, if we heard that he died, she should collect her full mizonos and her full ksuba. What is the problem? Why is she only being allowed to collect mizonos up to her ksuba? The Gemara says, no, because her claim is that she's divorced. According to her claim, she doesn't have a right to mizonos. She only has a right to ksuba. We don't trust that claim. But according to her claim, we are going to limit her. And therefore, she can't collect more than her actual ksuba. She can't collect mizonos that she would have claimed had she not said anything, had she would have been entitled to had he really just died without divorcing her. She can't collect that because she says she is divorced. All right, now the Gemara goes to its next proof. This is talking about a mimma enes. Mimma enes is a ketana who's married off by her brothers or by her mother. It's only a marriage midrabanan. She has a right to walk out at any time. The Mishnah had said that a mimma enes, a ketana who's married and has a right to walk out, does not get mizonos. She doesn't get support. So the Gemara says, what are we talking about when we say a ketana doesn't get support? It can't be that she's still married to him, because then he's chayiv to feed her. He still has to feed her. She wouldn't be called a mimma enes then. Mimma enes then just means a kitana, someone who has the right to be mimma'in. So he's still obligated to feed her. So you can't say that there's no mizonos as long as they're married. It is considered a marriage in that regard, at least. So it must be referring to where the husband went away to Medina Siyam, and she, in the meantime, borrowed money in order to be fed, and she ate from that money, and then she did miyun. She now walked out of the marriage. Now the husband comes back. She wants the husband to pay off the money that she borrowed, because she says, you were supposed to feed me during that time when I was married to you. It was before the miyun, and I borrowed in order to feed myself, so you have to pay off the guy that I borrowed from. So there, she doesn't have a right to do that, and the husband doesn't have to pay because she did miyun, and that's when we say that a miyun is ein la mizonos. It cancels the marriage in the first place, and it's not the husband's responsibility. So again, we still see though that it's only if she did miyun that the husband is not obligated to pay off that loan. However, had she not done miyun, she's still married, the husband is. That clearly shows that we would obligate the husband to support her while he's away in Medina Siyam. So, Kasha and Shmuel again. So, Shmuel again says here there's no concern. There is no possibility that he left money with her, because there is no money that's left with the ketana. People do not put money in the hands of a ketana. That's not something that happens. So she couldn't have been left money. As far as Ma'aseh Yadayim, that can't happen either, because most ketanos don't make enough money to be able to equal the amount of support that they're supposed to earn, and therefore they could not make a deal. You keep your Ma'aseh Yadayim, I'll keep my support, because it's not an equal amount. All right, now the Gemara wants to know, what's the halacha? Do we give a psak? So Rav Dimi says that the actual incident came before Rebbe in Beit Sha'arim, where he was, and Rabbi Yishmael in Sipari. There's two different versions as to who paskin what. According to our first version, Rabbi paskin that she gets mazonos, Rabbi Yishmael paskin she does not get mazonos. According to the second shot, it was reversed. Either way, the Gemara says that there was a kasha was asked for Rabbi Yechanan on whoever it was who said that she doesn't get mazonos. The kasha was from the Bnei Kahanim Gedolim in our Mishnah, who said that she has to get support. There's only machlokas if she swears or not. Same kasha we asked in the beginning of this whole discussion. So how could you say she doesn't get support? It's clear that both those opinions hold she gets support. And that Shimon bar Abba answered that Shmuel already explained that it's talking about where she heard that he died, and Rav Yochanan expressed surprise that this explanation was given in the Mishnah. He said, did you explain the Mishnah that much? He went that much into the depth of the Mishnah to say that it's talking about where he died. He apparently was not pleased with that explanation. Now, what is actually the halacha over here? So now the Gemara says, Apsak, the halacha is like Rav. We do give her food while her husband's away. Now the Gemara says two other situations in which the halacha is like Rav, unrelated. The Gemara says, but it was decided at the same time, say the Rishonim. So one is that the halacha is like Rav, who's quoted by Rav Huna, who says that the woman has a right to opt out of the mizonos. She has a right to say, "I'm going to keep my work. You keep your mizonos." And the halacha is also like Rav Zvid, as far as something that Rav says about a kunya. Kunya is a kli that is glazed with lead, and the question is it a problem of chametz? Did it absorb chametz? Generally, we say that an earthenware kli cannot be kashered because it absorbs too much flavor. Here, it's earthenware coated with lead. So we have a psak of Rav Zvid and Rav who says that it depends what color it is or if it has cracks. If it is white or black, that type of lead material does not absorb and it's kasherable. If it is green, that type of lead has a chemical in it that makes it not kasherable. If, however, it's cracked, then in all circumstances it's not kasherable and it absorbs. Now, one of the things that we skipped back before, which we should mention, is that the Gemara had questioned what is an nafkamina between the two reasons of Shmuel. Shmuel had one reason that we're concerned that maybe he left money over for her, and the other reason is that maybe she canceled the mizonos deal, and she doesn't have a right to mizonos because she's keeping her ma'aseh yadayim. The Gemara said, what's the difference between the two? So the Gemara said the difference would be in a situation where one applies and the other doesn't apply. There's two potential such situations. Generally, a ketana has neither of these two. A ketana you won't leave money with, and a ketana doesn't earn enough. If, however, you had a ketana that earns enough, so then you have a concern of that she was keeping her ma'aseh yadayim, you don't have any concern that they left money with her. Or if you have a gedola who does not earn enough, so you do have a concern that he left money with her, but you don't have a concern that she decided to keep her ma'aseh yadayim instead of